You know, here on the Tennessee River system, this time of year can be one of the best times to start looking for crappie back in the creeks. Along about late February through March and on through the spawn, crappie will start to get back in these creeks. Now, for the most part, what crappie are probably looking for or looking to eat is their primary food forage, which is shad. They primarily feed on shad, but they do feed on other things besides shad. Now, the juvenile crappie, they don't eat the shad as much as the older crappie, so the bigger, older slabs will be in the back of the creeks gobbling up those shad, but they will eat other things as well. Such things as aquatic insects, pupa, larva type things of flies, insects. Also little things called malacostraca. They're basically little crustacean-like things that are in the family of stuff like lobsters and crabs. These are just little tiny crustaceans that, like I said, smaller crappie more readily feed on these, but the big crappie will feed on them as well. Sometimes the bigger crappie may even prefer the smaller bait. My theory is that it's kind of hard to imitate a shad. It's a rather big bait, when you get to that size that these crappie will eat. So I think it's hard to fool them in that regard. And I kind of like to think when crappie are eating these little jigs, they really don't look like shad. So they have to be pretty much imitating the other things that the crappie eat, the small aquatic insects, little crustaceans, and see. So within that whole group of stuff is a large variety. The way they look, the way they move through the water is different, the colors. So I think that's why the little jigs with all the different colors that you can come up with your hand-tied jigs, plastic jigs, whatever you're doing, all the different combinations, they can all work at different times. People have their favorite colors, but I think that is why, because there's such a wider variety of these little aquatic insects and little small crustaceans in their little early stage of development, that the crappie, they are just reactive to those little baits. At a certain point, that's all they eat. As little crappie, they start to get older, and at a certain point they start to eat more and more shad. They transfer over to where most of their diet is shad versus the little aquatic insects. But so that's something, instead of kind of being haphazard about when you tie your jigs, maybe you could look a little closer and say, hey, what's actually out here in this body of water that kind of looks like what I could tie up a jig that looks like what they may actually be readily looking for, in a particular body of water, rather than just randomly going, oh, well, I'm just going to tie this up or tie this jig up and use this material, that material. But either way, it is really neat, really cool that you can randomly just pick something with a little green in it, a little yellow, a little orange head, a little red thread, a little black dot for an eye, and throw that sucker out there, and just crappie will wear it out.